Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Tom. Let's talk about really cool music documentaries. I've just picked out a few out of my collection. Maybe you have some of these, maybe you don't, but here's one to start off with. This 3 DVD set. I Got the Feeling, James Brown in the 60s. It has 3 DVDs, one being a documentary that focuses on his performance at the Boston Gardens on April 5th, 1968, the day after MLK was assassinated. Cities are burning all over the U.S., and Boston was a little apprehensive about James canceling the show for fear of more violence. But James persevered and played the show, and it was excellent. And great black and white footage of him. And here's that show. Well, here's the DVD of the documentary. And here's the DVD of the actual show in its entirety. The crowd gets a little rambunctious at the end, and James has to kind of quell the vibe a little bit and get everybody back in their seats. But the band is on fire. James is on fire. And in my opinion, for my taste, I think the 67, 68, 69 James Brown period is one of his peaks of just performing and tunes. I mean, the guy was just cranking out great singles right and left. And then the third disc in the set is James live at the Apollo 68. This one is black. No, this one is color. This is a color shot footage of an amazing performance. And at the end, he does a medley of all these great songs. Cold Sweat, Maybe the Last Time, Please, 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 and an unbelievable version of I Can't Stand Myself. Incredible stuff. This is highly recommended. This is really good 3 DVD set here that you can get. Really, it's not really that expensive. And then another great one here, we're just throwing stuff out here out of the blue, is this Chrissy Hine documentary where you kind of interview her. She's walking through like London, New York, Nashville, talking about her home. She walks through Akron, Ohio, where she grew up, and just talks about her life. And she paints, and it's a real up and close, personal kind of portrait of Chrissy. And then as a bonus, at the end of this disc, you get a complete 1981 Rock Palace show with the original Pretenders lineup in 81, and that is really cool. And and then this is kind of cool too. These Beatle Deconstructing the Beatles. There's a guy named what is his name? Let's see here. Scott Freeman breaks down a lot of the songs on here of Rubber Soul, tells how they recorded the album. It's really interesting. It's kind of told from kind of like a professor kind of standpoint. And here's another one too. They have one with Revolver, where they pull up the tracks on these and the charts. They don't really pull up the actual master tapes, but the charts of who played what and what was overdubbed and all that kind of thing. So it's kind of interesting, kind of from a scholastic kind of point of view of these recordings. So Deconstructing the Beatles, Revolver, here's Rubber Soul. Here's one I picked up recently, The Life and Times of Brian Jones. Doesn't feature any Stones music, but it is interesting, has a lot of footage I've never really seen of Brian Jones, black and white and color. So this is kind of cool. Also, too, this is really kind of a heavy documentary, Heaven Adores You, about Elliott Smith, songwriter Elliott Smith. Talks about how he started off just kind of as a kind of more of a punk player, and then kind of went into this kind of folk kind of mode, playing clubs, gaining attention, notoriety, critical acclaim, and then of course it touches on his drug addictions and mental illness. So but if you're in for a heavy night of watching, this is good. This is Elliott Smith's Heaven Adores You. Here's a really great video here, documenting Leonard Cohen's 1972 tour of Europe, beginning in Dublin, ending in Jerusalem on April 21st. Really intimate portrait of Leonard Cohen. So there's some great performances. One performance towards the end, he's on acid and he starts crying on stage, and he can't get through the song Marianne. And just really cool. He seems really humble, really low key, very funny. His band is great. He does a version here at one of the shows of what's that song called? Chelsea Hotel, but it's an early version. Chelsea Hotel #1, and it's very long compared to the one that was released, but really, really cool. Check this out if you can. Also, we have, this is not really a documentary, but it's a really cool performance of Big Star in 1994, playing at the New Daisy Theater, playing with Alex Chilton, two of the guys from the Posies, and Jody Stevens. Here's a really cool one here, if you haven't seen this. This is Graham Parsons' Fallen Angel. Great documentary about Graham Parsons. I mean, some of the stuff on here is so, it's so myth-like that it's almost like hard to believe what happened with his body after he died, and how they tried to transfer it from the LA airport back to the Joshua Tree to cremate, which they did, and no one ever really got busted for it. So I don't want to give away the stories, but there's some great interviews with Diane Parsons, Keith Richards, Dwight Yoakam. Really good stuff. Not a documentary, but a great performance here. Jeff Buckley, live in Chicago. It shows you Jeff Buckley at his live best, and all his vocal histrionics, and his playing is amazing. The band. There's a great version on here of Kangaroo by Big Star. It's really cool. One of my favorite rock documentaries of all time is the Unheard Music documentary about X, but also the LA punk scene in the early 80s, late 70s. Great interviews with X Scene and John Doe and the rest of the band, Billy Zoom, DJ Bonebreak, and really intimate and well worth purchasing or watching if you haven't seen it. Another great one here is Festival. It documents a lot of the performances at the Newport Folk Festival from 63 to 65. Great performances from Dylan, of course, and you've got Joan Baez, and a really cool clip of Howlin' Wolf is featured on here as well. This is really cool. They interviewed a lot of the people at the shows. You could kind of see like the beginning of the hippie movement as it's beginning to, you know, rise. It's just really, really cool. Really great documentary of that period of time between 63 and 65, before folk rock exploded and it was more the folk scene. It's just folk with no rock. Also, too, is another a great one here of Joni Mitchell, documentary on Joni Mitchell called, what is it called here? Woman of Heart and Mind. Shows great performances of her doing California in color, and talks to a lot of people she worked with, like Herbie Hancock and James Taylor. Really cool. One of my all-time favorite documentaries is The Who's Kids Are All Right. This could be my favorite rock documentary of all time. I remember seeing this back in the theaters in '79 on a double bill with Rust Never Sleeps, another great live show. But this is, to me, there's been many Who documentaries released after this, but I don't think anything captures the Who quite like this. This is all the Keith Moon era, and it really just lets the music do the talking. Great performances of them at Woodstock and, of course, Monterey Pop. A lot of shows in the 60s on British television. Great interviews with just the band. So it's really just the band talking about their history, and the performance pretty much carry the weight of the documentary. But the way it's put together, it just couldn't be any better. It's just perfect. Also, of course, I'm sure a lot of you have seen this, John Lennon's Imagine. Really good footage of John with the Beatles and solo. And another great one here, just a collection of Lovin' Spoonful performances, Do You Believe in Magic, on different shows back in the 60s, on the Ed Sullivan Show and Hullabaloo. A lot of great renditions, Rain on the Roof, Summer in the City, Nashville Cats, Darling Be Home Soon, one of their last clips. Good stuff. I really like this John Lennon Plastic Ono Band documentary on how they made the album. They have interviews with Yoko and Ringo and Klaus Voormann, and they pull up tapes of the actual performances and rehearsals. Really good stuff. Here's a really good documentary on love called Love Story. They follow Arthur around in a car. He kind of talks about their story, and they talk to Johnny Eccles, and there's some solo performances by love fanatics like Baby Lemonade. Really, really, really cool. Clash, West Way to the World is another great one. Covers their entire history from 77 to 82. Another one that was out in the theaters maybe about 10 years ago is Big Stars, Nothing Can Hurt Me. If you're a Big Star fan, this is a must. Delves deep into the way the band was formed, how they recorded the first album, and the subsequent disappointments of the albums not selling. Good stuff. One of my favorite Doors videos is When You're Strange, narrated by Johnny Depp. This came out in 2009. I think this is probably one of the better Doors videos out there, discussing their career. Another great one is Gimme Danger by the Stooges. A lot of great interviews with Iggy, some great live footage of Iggy smearing the peanut butter on, and you know, all the other antics. Another favorite is The Ruddles, a great parody of the Beatles. This was released in '78. And these are really good to pick up if you haven't seen these. This is the Old Grey Whistle Test, Volume 1 and 2. Great performances. They even have a performance of The Kiss from Judy Seal on here. Everybody's on here, from R.E.M. to U2 to Susie and the Banshees to Tim Buckley. Just a wide range of great acts back in the day. And then one of my absolute favorites is this 3-disc Monterey Pop DVD set. They have the original film, and then they have a lot of outtakes on another disc. Some great outtakes of the Byrds, and there's great footage of Laura Nyro, doing her thing, singing Poverty Train in front of the crowd. And then there's a full performance of Jimi Hendrix and Otis Redding on another disc. They're landmark performances. So these are just some cool videos I'd like to show, DVDs. And that's pretty much it for the day. Thank you so much, everybody. Please subscribe. Have a good one. Bye-bye.